Hey everyone, it's AndyG here. Today we're walking through my track called Wake Up. This has been requested an awful lot, and I think now's the perfect time. After it being out for almost a year, well, it's just over a year now actually. It came out around the time of ADE last year, and I thought I'd give a walkthrough on the track on how I made it. It's probably been my most successful track to date, having support from obviously the boss Hardwell and also the Chainsmokers recently. It's part of their rotation. And yeah, I'm super stoked to explain this one with you guys and hopefully be able to get something from it and be able to use these types of tricks that are used in your tracks. So let's get into it. And so we're going to start here at the intro of the track.
Hello? Who's there? Let me escape. I need to go.
And so that's the intro, kind of sets the tone for it. First intro, it's really weird and creepy. At the time I like it, now I don't really like it. When I play it live, I get rid of these like parts, especially this intro part, and also in like the break after the music box section. But I should explain why I did this intro and what inspired me to do it. I'm a big rock and metal fan. I really like that type of music, and it kind of started around the time where Metallica released their 72 Seasons album, and the album cover inspired me to kind of have this creepy kind of intro thing. I'm going to put a photo of the album cover on screen now, but that's what made me to be inspired to make the intro and like the break section like it was. But obviously we have this baby vocal.
Hello? Who's there? Let me escape. I need to go.
Which funnily enough is actually my voice. I would have I've pitched it up 6 semitones, but this is me talking into this microphone. And yeah, be aware that I've put like an accent on just to try and obviously alter it better.
Hello? Who's there? Let me escape. I need to go.
So that's me. And obviously we've put a delay chain on it, with some EQing, getting rid of a lot of the high and the low in the EQ so that doesn't clash with the main vocal, of course. We have a reverb as well, that's a corridor preset. And then we have another EQ, just boosting a little bit the highs, taking rid of the lows, and getting rid of some of the mids. I have a mix hub and S1 imager on here as well. I am on a new laptop, so that's why they're not on here. I haven't got the CLA plugins or any Waves plugins on here yet. But yeah, they were on there, and that's probably just like a little boost in like the 10 or 12k region, and then imager might have probably made it a little bit more narrower. And then we'll go into the build now. And so that's just really setting the tone of the track and getting ready for the drop to come in. We obviously have the leads playing, and then we have a bunch of effects. We've got impacts, we've got downlifters, we've got flutters, we've got ambient sounds. Quite a lot of this was actually from my sample pack with Clubwork. I've using quite a lot of sounds in this one, and we just got a bunch of risers, it's just all effects this section. And then we have obviously the build snare, which is from a Ollie James Patreon pack. It's a triplet snare build, so obviously because the drop's in triplet, so we want a triplet snare build just to make sure that listeners prepared to get into that triplet kind of feel. So that's from his Ollie James's track Old School. And then we also have a Reese bass playing in the background. And that is from Rios's sample pack called Reese Helix, and we're just pitching it up as it gets into the second half of the drop. Have an EQ just ducking a little bit of around the 250k mark because it was sticking out a little bit, and then I've done the same on this EQ, and then we have another EQ which is ducking around that 350 mark, and I believe that's for in the breakdown because so it didn't clash with the music box sound. S1 imager again, I believe that's to make it more narrower. And so that's all there pretty much is to the build, and then we get into the pre-drop. So I'm obviously got the main lead playing. It's kind of like a fake out drop because I felt that it worked for this type of track. So we have a fake out drop with the lead, and then we have the wake up vocal, which is from the Producer's School sample pack.
Wake up.
As soon as I heard that, I've gone, yeah, that's the one that I'm going to use. I'm going to center the whole track around that. And so we'll get into the leads because I know basically a fair few people want to know how to make these leads. So we have two main sounds. We have the main one, which is this. That is a sound from Diva. And we have this one, which is from Nexus. Which is a little bit more of an ugly sound, but it complements it really well. And funnily enough, this lead didn't sound like, the preset doesn't sound like it. I will quickly see if I can make the lead again for you to show. So I'll show you what originally sounded like. It was a sample pack from Nova Melodic Techno for Diva, and it was the Synth Ultra preset. And so this is what the plugin originally sounded like. And that's playing the lead. And so what we'll do is I'll play like a chord so you can get a feel of what it sounds like. So we've literally got a pad preset here. And so what I tend to do with some of these Diva presets is I tend to just mess around with them a little bit and see what I can create. And so what I believe I did, I think I took all of these down. So obviously the tact, decay, sustain and release, and I brought the decay and the release up a touch in both. So we can hear that we've got that pluck playing now. I turned the reverb off. I added a little trick that I learned from Will Sparks using the chorus and putting it on the dramatic preset. And then what I believe I did was, I think I put that down an octave, if it will let me, and believe brought this one up like that. And then change the oscillator, make sure that it's using both, using all three, and I also brought off the cutoff. I brought up the cutoff. And that's how the lead for Wake Up came about. And so yeah, you've gone from a pad preset to now a lead sounding like this. So yeah, if you want to make unique leads, that's how you do it. Literally get whatever sound you want, tinker it, play around with it. Even if you don't know what you're doing. I don't really know what I'm doing with those types of analog synths, but sometimes you can just come up with something really cool, and that's ended up becoming the wake up lead. And so we have an arpeggiator on it, and that's mainly just so it can play in triplet, because I came up with the second drop melody first, and then I put it into the first drop, and I wanted the first drop to be triplet, and so I just chucked an arpeggiator on it and then left it in the rate of 112, because that's in a triplet, so 3 6 12. And so in terms of processing, we have a Camel Crusher. We can't open Camel Crusher on Mac, and the screen's just black, and I believe it's probably on the British clean preset, as it always is. And just, if you want the settings, they're there. If you're in Ableton, good luck figuring out if you're in any other DAW. But then we have a Bigifier that's on the synth opener preset, and then we just turn the output down a little bit so it didn't make the sound too loud, and clip at the end. A Noveltech character, just giving it a little bit of a boost in the mid-range of the sound. We have an OTT just to brighten it up just a little bit. There's only 12%, so not too much to it, but it's just doing something ever so slightly. We have an EQ, getting rid of the lows because you don't want that to clash with the kick in the bass. And then we have a little dip around the 350 hertz mark. And then we have our reverb, of course, using the same trick I always do in the reverb chain. And that's on the WW reverb preset. You can feel free to use that one if you wish. Then we have another EQ after it, which is almost the exact same EQ, but it's just removing more of the lows that have possibly come from the reverb. And there's obviously still more ugly frequencies around the 370 hertz mark. Then we have sidechain, kickstart 2 on the quick chain preset. Then we have a utility, and I believe, yeah, that's for the build down, so it's not as loud when the whole track comes in and builds in. And then we have a sausage fattener at the end just to give it a bit more of a boost. Alright, apologies for that jump cut, but we're going to be going into the group chain of everything that's in the lead stack. So we have a choral effect, but I believe that's only used in the like break in between the drop, just to change it out a little bit. Yeah, that's when that comes in. We have a Simplon. That's obviously just for, that would have been for that part to make it sound like it's actual used on like a DJ deck, the filter. And then we have another Simplon, and that's probably for the build, like getting rid of the highs and just slowly increasing them as it comes to the drop. And then we have, I have no idea what this EQ's for. Oh, the same for that little like, I don't know, you like the fill in between the two parts of the drop, just removing some of the highs because the filter was making it too harsh. And then we also have a soothe, just taming some of the nasty sounds. And then we have an endless smile as well, and that's for the bills and poor fellas a bit upset. But yeah, in terms of the supporting sound as well, the Nexus sound, that's basically going through the exact same processing chain. And then we have obviously my iconic stab sounds that are starting to become a lot more prominent now. People are using them. I thought I claimed them, but apparently not, but that's all right. Everyone can do what they want. But I had to use the stem for this so you can hear what it sounds like, because I don't have lethal, and I've had some issues with Rave Generator. But you obviously know how it sounds. So we have lethal and Rave Generator. You can find the presets, go for it. We have Bigifier as well, another Noveltech character, a Decapitator as well. That would have just been like increasing some of the drive in that sound. Then we have ProQ, getting rid of the lows, ducking a little bit of the highs, not too much. A little bit of reverb, kickstart as well for sidechain. Then we have an imager, probably would have made it just a little bit more wider. And we just have a reverse lead going into the drop, just so it makes it a lot more smoother going into the main drop. So if you feel like your tracks are a little bit disconnected, like in terms from the lead to the drop, just make a reverse lead. So what you'd do is literally just take the first snippet. So what you'd do is I'd literally just take out that, record this with a bunch of reverb, and then you'd go, and however you do it in Ableton, you double click R, or you can right click and reverse it, or FL, you do whatever way you do. But yeah, it just makes it a nice smooth transition into your drop. And so now we'll go into the kick and bass, which sounds like this for the triplet drop. So really, really nice sounding kick and bass. So we have the low kick, which sounds like this. Just really punchy, subby, and got a lot of oomph to it. I've put a bit of overdrive on that and taken out the highs as well. Then we have the mid kick. That's also got some overdrive on it and EQ as well, getting rid of the low so it doesn't clash with that low kick. And then we have a crunchy kick, which, if I'm not mistaken, this is a real ugly sounding kick. Not too bad, but not great either. But that's taking even more of the lows and even some of the mids as well. And then ducking some of the highs so it doesn't clash with that mid kick and also the leads. And then we also have a top kick, which is standard. But funny to note, in this track, I only have the one layer. If you saw my Tempest walkthrough, you'd saw that I duplicated the layer, duplicated like the kick layer, and added one clean and one overdriven. For this one, I did it all overdriven, but I didn't do it too much. I'll probably get slewed in the comments for adding overdrive to my kick, but it works. So that's the great thing about music. You literally just try random things, and sometimes you get great results, sometimes you don't get the best results, but you just got to try and bend and break some of the rules a little bit. Like even the lead with the main lead, it came from a pad sound and now it's turned into a plucky lead. So yeah, you just got to try out these different things and you could come away with some great results. So that's a little bit of advice for the new and upcoming producers. And so along with the kick, we also have this triplet side bass. And so this would have been a sound from Nexus, I believe. It's usually a sequencer. I think I might have used it in Tempest. It might be in that walkthrough. But yeah, I obviously changed the format to make it into a triplet form. And we have R bass, and that would have been on the sub frequency, which would have been, I'm not sure, would have been in F, so it would have been probably around 43, 44 hertz on R bass, and we've been boosting that just a little bit. And then we also have the highs dipped in this, and then we have mix hub as well. I really don't know what that might have been boosting a bit more of the bass frequencies, but I'm not entirely sure. And then we have a Pro Q3, which is just boosting the sub as well a little bit more. And then we have an LFO tool on this side bass, because I felt that LFO tool has a lot more control over like sidechain parameters than Kickstart 2. So that's what I went with for the side bass. And in terms of drums and stuff, we very, very simple. We don't have really any drums in the first part. of the drop. They all come in the second half, and so we have a triplet hat, and then we bring in a tom. It's not really a tom, it's almost like a little percussion kind of sound, but there's not much to the triplet drop. Wanted to keep it fairly laid back while still trying to be anthemic as well. But then we have this drop as well, which is a combination of a fill from STVW, as you can see here, and then we have a big snare from Blur. And so we just turn that into a triplet. And then in terms of effects, we just have some downlifters, crowd noise, the ambience is back, and then we have uplifters and risers taking us out of the drop. And so we get into the breakdown now. And so I will first clarify that the music box sound now wasn't the music box sound that I used in the track. I recently got Contact, and so I've just used the music box just for pure demonstration. But I used a free music box called Mirage, I think it was what it was called, and I was really inspired by Martin Garrix's Yottabyte at the start of that one with the music box. So when you'd listen to that, you'd be able to see the similarity, especially when I used this whole wind up, like it goes into Martin Garrix's one. But yeah, we come up with this melody. So my whole thought behind that was like, obviously I have like that kind of start, and so I wanted to kind of play on that fair like nursery rhymey-esque. But yeah, I tried it, really liked it, and kind of fit in with the whole vibe of the track. And then I obviously just altered the MIDI to make it sound like it was like a old school music box. And so obviously would have had the Mirage as the main instrument, and then we have an OTT, little bit more depth on this one just to make it a little bit more brighter, because OTT has this really unique sound that you get from it. And so I just experimented with it and found that that one sounded the best. We have another bigger file, same preset synth opener. We also have a Camel Crusher as well that would have been doing just a little bit of distortion. Then we have a Gullfoss. So Gullfoss is an adaptive EQ, so it's a smart EQ. So while the sound in this case was playing, it's enabled to recover 27% of the lost frequencies that it feels like it's missed, and then taming 41% of the harsh frequencies, are the ones that are sticking out too much. And this is just general down to taste. You don't need to use it, but I don't use it as much nowadays, but it's still a handy handy effect to have and cool plugin. Then we would have had a delay as well. I would have been using Valhalla delay. I haven't downloaded that yet. And then we also have a reverb automation as well, again, which is using the Arts Acoustic. And then we have a soothe as well, which would have been just getting rid of some more harsh frequency, because a music box generally is really, really harsh sounding. Then we have a utility boosting 5 dB because it was pretty quiet, like the original sound was. And then we have a limiter just to make sure that it wasn't clipping or anything like that. And so we have the respace from the build, and then we have a choir from Nexus, which sounds like this. And that's a symphonic choir preset, and that would have been just removing some of the lows and also boosting a little bit of the mids, and that's just playing the chords of the respace, like the root notes that's playing. We have a tension string here. and that's also from Nexus, the hybrid strings preset. And then we have an organ too. It's good to know actually in this section, before I'll go into that in a second, but this is a cheap dance organ from Nexus, bit of OTT, not too much, and then we have an EQ getting rid of some of the lows and some obviously muddiness around 300 hertz. But in this second half of the break, it's good to know that the way I made this type of chord progression and this whole like area, I guess, was I was building it up into this, obviously into that effect kind of break as well. And so it's like almost like a stairway to making it really nice. So it's like we're climbing up the scale here. It's almost making it sound like it's resolved, which is a really nice feeling and one that I was after for this specific track. And then we have the, obviously the laughing and then like the footsteps. And they're all just sounds from Splice.
Hello? Who's there? Let me escape. I need to go.
And so we have the same build as the first drop, but now we're going into 4/4. So everything's the same, there's just a few added elements, of course. We've added a Hoover now, which is really ugly, and that's just the Hoover Dominator preset in Silent. And then we have a Camel Crusher on that. That would have been British Clean preset probably. Decapitator on that as well, so it would be even more driven. We have a Satin on it as well, really boosting that mid, because obviously the leads are really like high mid and high dominant, and so we needed to fill out the low mids as well, and the mids in that aspect. And then we have an EQ, getting rid of anything 300 hertz below. Have a mix hub and S1 imager. Mix hub would have been making it just a little bit brighter, probably around the 10k region. Imager would have been to make it wider. And then we have an LFO tool, which I think is playing, it actually might not be playing at all. Okay, so it's originally just staying as the Hoover, but then it's adding like a little trance gate effect at the end of every 2 bars, how I've had it. And then we obviously have a kickstart sidechain as well. And then in terms of the kick and bass, we've got some more, we've got the 4/4 side bass, so it would be the exact same side bass as the triplet one. But then I've also duplicated this same layer, but added some overdrive just to beef it up a little bit more. Mainly in that high aspect and kind of mids as well. It's just trying to make this last drop sound even more full than the first one, because obviously I left it really minimalized. And so we have some hats here as well. Hat 3 and hat 5 from my pack. One of the would have been, so hat 2 would have been in the imager a lot more narrower, and hat 1 would have been more wider, just because it's the characteristic. So as you can hear, this one's a little bit more loose, a little bit more looser, so you can make it wider and get away with that. And we have hat 2, which is a little bit more snappy, a bit more punchy. So make that a little bit more narrower so you can hear that. And then we have some hat loops. We have 2 rolling hats here, one from Vengeance and one from which is kind of my signature rolling hat at the moment. It's the one from Vengeance, my hat. And I'm even boosting actually some of the highs in my hat and taking some of the low end out too. And then we have a perk loop, which is also good to know that it's been panned 10 steps to the right speaker. Just really pushing it and grooving it till the very end. And that's all there really is to this track. It's a very simple track. It's a very much describes the less is more in that aspect. Like there's really not many, like there's 62 tracks and probably a fair few of it would have been from like the whole ambience and weird kind of sounds like that. But yeah, it's mainly you just want to choose good quality sounds. So you want to be just trying all these different things and just trying to make sure that these sounds like a good quality, because then you can get away with tracks like this. Like this was my debut track on main label Revealed, and it's very, very simple, but it's effective, and that's mainly down to the sound selection and just keeping the track as simple as it can, but also having a theme as well. But it's a great track. I love playing it out. Super grateful for all the support that I've had on it, not only from Hardwell and The Chainsmokers, but a bunch of other people as well, and very, very grateful for that. But yeah, hopefully you learned a thing or two from this tutorial. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I'll get back to them as soon as I can. But yeah, for sure, there's going to be more content coming. Going to be doing a bunch of challenges. Also going to be doing some monthly feedback sessions as well on YouTube. And so yeah, stay tuned for some great content coming forward here on the channel, and hope to hear from you guys soon. All the best and have a great day. Love you guys.